Hello, welcome to this special edition of Hotline Live. My name's Andy Newport. I'm joined by Scott McDermott here to discuss a pretty momentous day for Rangers Football Club. Just at 1 o'clock, about 10 minutes ago, we got the news, Scott, that the takeover of Rangers by Andrew Cavenagh, Parag McGrath and the San Francisco 49ers is now complete. They've now assumed a 51% stake in the club. Plans for a share issue, a £20 million investment in the club to come June the 23rd next month. What do you make it? Just a huge day for the club, eh?
It feels like a momentous day in the history of the club, Andy. There's no getting away from that. It feels special. If you're a supporter, it feels exciting. It feels you'd be optimistic. Gives you a bit of hope for the future. Rangers have obviously been through a tough time. Probably the last 15, 20 years, let's be honest. There's been a few high points in there, but a lot of lows. But this feels special. It feels momentous. A really important day in the club's history, I think.
I've said a few times in Hotline Live over the last few weeks when I've been on that without this on the horizon, without this takeover, coming close, then there would be really nothing for the Rangers support to be excited about. I mean, you can understand, even just in the last 10, 11 minutes since the news broke, a couple of whispers I think have come out early doors, but the just sheer excitement from the blue half of Glasgow.
Fans have been clinging on to this ever since the Daily Record and Keith Jackson broke the story. I think it was 100 days ago. So kudos to Jacko for that. But you're right, they've been clinging on to this hope that something's going to get done, and now they can really enjoy the moment. I mean, look, the hard work for Andrew Cavenagh and Parag McGrath starts now. It's a new look board. It's been totally revamped. I think there's 5 new Americans on the board.
Four plus Cavenagh.
Yeah, so 5 Americans in total. A few that have left, that have been there for a while. So it feels like a total fresh start, a new era, a new dawn for the club, whatever you want to call it. And look, they've not achieved anything yet in terms of success on the pitch. But if you're a supporter, you'll feel this could be the start of something special. There's going to be fresh investment, fresh ideas. You've got the backing of the 49ers enterprises, which I think is huge in terms of the access that you'll get to their ideas, their kind of strategies, as well as obviously the financial aspect. So no, it feels huge, and something, you're right, Rangers and their supporters have needed this for a long time. They've been getting by. You know that better than MD in terms of the board and the money that these guys have put in. They deserve a lot of credit for that, but it feels like they've been treading water for a while now. This is the fresh injection that they've been crying out for. It gives them a bit of stability. It gives them agility in terms of what they can do, in terms of their spending and further investment down the line. It definitely feels like a fresh start, and as I say, a real new era for the club.
I mean, just in terms of the finances behind it, so we're led to believe, obviously, that in order for them to get to 51%, they've obviously bought out the likes of Dave King, John Bennett. Those transactions, the details behind them aren't being made public. Those are private deals with private individuals, as it was, but you can be assured that that's not come cheap either. We're probably thinking, significant 8-figure sums for that. But there is this promise of £20 million that should see that 51% stake increase, we believe. But that money, how crucial is that going to be this summer? Because, I mean, we were discussing just before the show, I mean, you're talking about an Arnie Engels, he costs £11 million. There's been debates whether he's been the major hit Celtic fans, but I thought, those kind of sums don't go far these days. But for Rangers and what they can plan this summer, how important do you think it'll be?
Well, it's a start, and it's 20 million that they didn't have. I mean, we've been told that 20 million will pretty much purely be afforded to the manager in terms of improving the squad. That 20 million won't be used on stadium reconstruction or improvements around Ibrox. That will be for the team heading into the new season. And listen, you're right. I mean, in today's world, 20 million, the transfer market might not be that much, but in Scottish terms and for Rangers, it's still a significant sum. It's in addition to what you imagine was already there. No, if there was no takeover, Rangers would have still had to have money to spend in the summer to try and revamp this squad off the back of obviously losing another title with Celtic so far ahead. So, and also it looks as if this is an initial 20 million. It feels like, certainly for the information that we've had, it feels like there will be further investment down the line. But I think as a starting point, 20 million is a really good number for Rangers, and they can do a lot of good business.
I suppose as well, I mean, I keep go back to the last season's example at Leeds. You know, they made £160 million in transfer revenue last year, but they only spent 30 million of that, and that was still enough to get them promoted to the Premier League. So, I suppose from their point of view, it's about not spending big, but spending smart. You know, and that's something that Rangers just haven't done for so long.
100%, and that's we were speaking off air. I think the key thing about this whole takeover is the people that are now in at Rangers. No, you're reading the biographies of these American people. I mean, they're proper high-end businessmen, who have held positions in multi-million-pound companies across America.
With that crucial element of having a sporting background as well.
Exactly. These guys know what they're doing. And listen, that's not a criticism of the people that were in there already. As we've touched on, they've done their bit for Rangers and put
the money where their mouth was.
Put a lot of their own money in. But this is different. No, there's a total boards revamp. These guys that are coming in, you're reading, as I say, you're reading about their history. So experienced, and you're right, they'll be smart. They know what they're doing. They'll put strategies in place. I don't think MD really expected them to go massive in the first year with the spending. I think 20 million is probably about right, and probably what fans were hoping for, that kind of between 15 and 20 million is a really good starting point. There will be more, but I think they'll be clever about it. No, it'll be about player trading. Obviously, a new sporting director starts on Monday, and Kevin Thelwell. We expect, or we hope there'll be a new manager. It can help us next week at some point. You would think so. Things will start moving, and as I say, it's early days, but no, this initial investment, and as I say, the people that they've put in there, I think it looks really bright for Rangers. It looks really promising.
I was just going to say, talking through the individuals then, I've joined the board, obviously Andrew Cavenagh being the chairman now, replacing Fraser Thornton, who sort of steps down just to become a director. I mean, what we can say is that he's obviously, I think there's always this, scepticism about Americans coming here, but we get a wee bit snobbish in this country, don't we, about these people coming from the US and try to tell us how to do things. But it seems from Andrew Cavanagh's point of view that somebody that's a proper football man. He obviously played football.
Yeah.
He was a college goalkeeper, captain for his team. He's at university, and obviously we're told he sort of travelled Europe a lot, taking on a lot of football, and has obviously really been bitten by the Ibrox bug.
Yeah.
He's been back and forth. He's seen Ibrox at its worst, if you want to put it that way, in terms of the day of the protest against St Johnstone, and then he's seen Ibrox at its noisy, raucous, passionate best that night against Fenerbahce, the penalty shootout one. So, I mean, he's clearly been somebody who's he's been taken in by the passion that the support base, and we'll see the potential of the support base.
Scottish football will be different for him, Andy. I mean, that's, I think, you can think you know all about Rangers and all about Scottish football until you're actually in it. I don't think you fully realise what it's all about. No, it is pretty unique, this country's game, I think, for outsiders. He's been here a lot, as you say, he's been to a lot of games. He has tried to immerse himself in it. As you say, he's seen the good and the bad. But as you say, it's no, even at those low points haven't they put him off. No, he's been constantly there with Greta Steinson or other people that might have been the board that we didn't know about at the time. So you're right, he's clearly caught the bug. I still think it will probably surprise him once he's in the role, in terms of the intensity and the passion and the pressure, the level of expectation. But he looks fully committed, as you say. He's a football fan. I'm sure he'll make mistakes. like the board will no doubt make mistakes. As I say, it's completely new coming into Rangers, coming into Scottish football, but no, they're obviously totally committed to it. They will have plans and a vision for the future. This won't be about, no, clearly they want to win immediately because you have to at Rangers, but I think it'll be far more long term for them. I don't think they want a quick hit, a success where there's no long term strategy. I think they've said in the statement that's come out, no, they want to make Rangers the leading club in Scottish football again, and that's ultimately that's what the fans want to hear.
Yeah, I'm just going to read. Obviously, what we're expecting to speak with Andrew Cavenagh and the rest of the consortium June the 23rd, when obviously there's going to be this share issue. We're expecting some kind of press conference that day as well. But they have issued an open letter to supporters. I can just read a couple of lines for that. It says, this is on behalf of Andrew Cavenagh and Parag McGrath. Dear Rangers supporters, we are proud to be entering a new chapter for this extraordinary club. This moment is the result of months of thoughtful discussions with the club leadership and our shared confidence in Rangers' success going forward. To that end, we'd like to tell you a bit about our thinking. Simply put, our goal is to win trophies in Scotland and be able to compete at a high level in Europe while laying a foundation of financial sustainability for the future. I mean, that's a declaration of intent from the start. You know, they want to basically put Rangers back to the top and, you know, also move away from this, you know, period of, you know, the club's been a bit of a circus, really in terms of off the field.
They want to topple Celtic. You know, let's be honest about it. That's the key aim. That has to be our number one aim. I've said many times on here, Celtic are 4 in a row in front in terms of titles. They are, what is it, 70, 80 million in the bank at the last count, with more Champions League money to come. They've got an elite level manager, European level manager in Brendan Rodgers. Rangers are behind in all of those counts. So make no mistake, we're saying this is exciting and a new era for Rangers, which it is, but it's a massive job. It's a massive challenge ahead of these guys to get in front of Celtic. Will it happen overnight? No, probably not. But in terms of the league, at least they need to go and challenge. And the 20 million this summer to go and try and reshape the squad will obviously be vital in doing that. It'll be about player trading, obviously, if they can get guys out the door and get some money back. But ultimately, they're going to need to spend because the squad needs strengthened quality-wise if you're going to get anywhere near Celtic. But as they're saying in the statement, they want to make Rangers number one again, so they need to go and try and topple Celtic this season.
That you're talking about, obviously the expertise that the 49ers are going to bring. That's crucial. I mean, you know, these guys are no stranger to success. You look at what they've done in NFL with obviously the 49ers. I think it's 3 Super Bowls in the last 13 years. Not quite managed to go over the win line, but you know, second out of, was it 32 clubs over there in America's not bad. And then obviously getting Leeds promoted back to the Premier League this year. I think the thing that interests me is that, you know, we're all talking about this £20 million obviously this summer, but it's been a gradual approach they took at Ellen Road to build success. Obviously, but in a small percentage shareholding, I think it was 2018, and they've added to that over the last 7 years, and they've built the team as well. Obviously, they had a stint in the Premier League. I think they were still under a different ownership at that point, but since they've assumed outright control down there, they've built there. You can see the vision they've got. They're wanting to expand Ellen Road. I'm sure that'll excite Rangers fans, hoping that they can do similar with Ibrox. But just in terms of that, the business know-how, the commercial know-how, also the sporting know-how, that's going to be the crucial aspect, isn't it?
It's just a level of professionalism, isn't it? That, as I say, it's not been critical of the people that were at Rangers, but this is taking it up a notch. It's taking it up a level. You see how big the 49ers are as a corporation. You touched on it there. It's the advantages that you might not see. It's like commercial deals and stuff like that. It's their expertise, as well as the kind of financial element in the background. But
it's a whole new market as well of people. You know, okay, these guys are coming in from America in terms of the business deal. I mean, it's been the board that we've had at Ibrox for the last 10 years has been made up of Rangers fans that are spread across the world.
Yeah.
But it's been largely been, British companies and British sponsors that they've got.
Yeah.
I mean, is this an opportunity to spread the net a bit further?
100%. I mean, I think the kind of the info that we had this morning, one of the things that was mentioned was obviously the exposure that Rangers are now going to get, that wider exposure because of the American link up. I mean, just a simple thing, but I mean, we're probably going to be going Rangers pre-season, down to Burton upon Trent this summer. No, and listen, we know why that's happening because there's so much kind of turmoil, with the takeover, a new manager and stuff like that. But Rangers as a club, I mean, if they're serious about making money and as a kind of commercial entity, as a business, Rangers should be going to America and playing games in pre-season. Playing in these big glamour friendlies and stuff. And
tapping into the expat community they've got there, but also opening doors to new audiences.
Aye, of course. And maybe this is wishful thinking on our part, but you'd like to think surely next summer you would think they'd be going to America. I mean, and listen, that in the grand scheme of things for Marathi and Cavenagh and the 49ers, that will be a relatively small thing, but for the supporters and that, just to feel the impact of this takeover, it'll be stuff like that. I think I'd be amazed if you don't find Rangers going to America next summer.
I suppose we revealed, I think it was February 19th that Keith filed his story. 99 days was yesterday. It finally came in.
Jack of the red wine as we speak.
Champagne's corked, corks popping. In terms of, I think the final thing that had to happen for the deal to get agreed was the approval from the SFA. We're told that came in about 9 o'clock last night. Didn't seem to be, from what we're told, there was no big celebration, no big, huge slaps in the back. People realised that this is where the hard work starts. But in terms of just that dual ownership thing, we've seen other clubs in Scotland that have similar sort of arrangements. Hibs with the Black Knights and Bill Foley down at Bournemouth. Obviously, the newest arrangement at Hearts with
Tony
Bloom. So these are becoming more and more commonplace now, and I think the opposition for likes of SFA and UEFA, they can't sort of throw blockades anymore in the way that they might have done 10, 15 years ago.
No, listen, for what we've heard, the SFA have been very supportive of the takeover, and by all accounts, it's been pretty smooth in terms of the Americans coming in. I think you're right. The dual ownership thing's always the issue that crops up. But no, we're led to believe, obviously, in terms of Cavenagh and his people, it's completely separate. The crossovers obviously with Parag, Marathi and Leeds, but again, both clubs will act completely independently. Am I right in saying it's only if they were to meet in Europe there would be an issue? Or?
I don't even think it's that. I think both clubs will let to believe, because although there's a crossover in terms of some of the ownership aspect, there's enough of a separation.
Yeah.
Obviously different people, and obviously Andrew Cavenagh being in charge, the man calling the shots at Ibrox. Okay, Parag Marathi is going to sit on both boards, but I think obviously Manchester United and Nice were in the same European competition last year, and they're under the same ownership, so they are confident. They've obviously got the approval from the SFA, and I think they'll be confident that UEFA will have no issue with it as well. So just obviously there's been a couple of big issues at Ibrox to be sort of negotiated this summer. This is the first one. The next big one is obviously the managerial hunt. As you say, Kevin Thelwell will start working Monday. He's been assisted by Greta Steenson, who isn't taking an official role at the club as part of the 49ers group, will be on hand to offer help, offer guidance, advice as they go through this process. But are you expecting, now we've got this out the road, that the manager will follow pretty sharply?
I think so. I mean, it looks as if the club are now getting their ducks in a row, basically. The takeover was the first thing. Kevin Thelwell, although he's been working in the background towards the end, he's kind of post at Everton, he will officially start on Monday. And I think you would expect a new manager to follow. I think the club have said today that they're well down the road with that process. So it does feel as if it's nearing its end game, thank God for us. And And you would expect next week something to happen. I mean, I said on Hotline Live last night, in terms of David Ancelotti, who's clearly one of the main contenders, I'm certainly led to believe he's on holiday this week, but expects some sort of movement next week. Whether he becomes Rangers manager or whether he goes elsewhere, or whether Rangers decide on someone else, he certainly expects movement next week. And I'd be surprised. Listen, I'd be surprised if we're sitting here next Friday and there's no Rangers manager in place.
I mean, in terms of, we're told, we're led to believe that there is competing offers, financial competing interest for David Ancelotti. I mean, the news that there's £20 million to be spent, is that the sort of thing that can be the clincher if he is indeed the number one candidate?
Yeah, but I don't know about the clincher, but I mean, if you put yourself in Ancelotti's shoes, 35-year-old, just about to step into management on your own for the first time, you would want to go into a place where there's a freshness and there's a new regime, if you like. There's a project, for want of a better word. I hate using that, but there's a vision and a strategy, which we've touched on for the Americans. I think as a young aspiring coach, that would appeal to you. And as you say, with the promise of money, I mean, he's no daft. He knows coming to Scotland, he's not going to get Premier League kitty to work with. If he was going to England or some of the other kind of top 5 leagues, I mean, he'll be realistic. But I think whether it's Ancelotti or whoever coming into Rangers, this news today, if you're a new manager, would be a massive boost. I mean, just in terms of the excitement, immediately the fans are in a good mood. You've almost got the fans on board right away because of the takeover. There'll be a real optimism, enthusiasm, excitement ahead of the new season. I think if you're a new manager, it would be a massive, massive appeal for you.
I mean, there's obviously a huge job to be done, as we've spoken about earlier, just this summer in terms of the squad. I mean, even looking back to what Barry Ferguson was saying when he was in charge, he reckoned it could be as many as a dozen in, a dozen out. I mean, as we sit here, 50 days, just a wee bit over that until the opening qualifier. There's not a second to be wasted. But looking further ahead, in terms of some of the bigger projects that could perhaps be looked at Ibrox, the stadium itself, I mean, we're led to believe that obviously when the new consortium, when they were given that guided tour, we also saw the picture of that last month. They were walking around the stadium going, well, we could do things here, we could do things there. I mean,
that was interesting.
I mean, do you think fans could be excited to see, because I think we'll agree Ibrox, whilst it's still a fantastic stadium and one of the most iconic in Britain, there are parts of it that are starting to show its age. I mean, the obviously the main stand itself's 125 years, I think it is, and the rest of the stand built in the sort of late 70s. I mean, there are parts that they really do need a bit of upgrading, a bit of TLC.
Yeah, I think they should be excited. I mean, you're right. It's interesting that when Cavenagh and company were doing the tour, for what we hear, I mean, they were literally coming up with ideas on the spot in terms of what we could do here, what we could do there, and that's in and around the stadium. That area where Ibrox is. So, listen, that'll be long term, but it is exciting. In terms of the actual stadium expansion, I mean, it's funny. I don't know about you, but I mean, I've never really thought of Ibrox needing to be increased in terms of the capacity. I've always thought the way it is just now, was it 51 or 50,000 capacity, was just about right. But I suppose when you think, I mean, we're led to believe, was it 14,000 on the waiting list?
19,000.
19,000. Yeah. We were at Easter Road on the last day of the season. A meaningless dead rubber in the league. I think Rangers, what did they get? 1,300
and they had
14,000 apply for that game at Easter Road. I mean, that's staggering, I think, for any club.
I know it's
any club in Britain.
I know it's been a stated aim of the board for a long time that they want to increase the stadium because they're aware of the fact that, with Celtic having that 60,000, that every single home game they're losing that 10,000 seats worth of revenue. That's what they fall further and further behind Celtic every week. So obviously with this huge waiting list, and you imagine that appetite if this new regime can hit the ground running, the appetite for tickets is only going to get bigger. But
exactly.
But I mean, these are, as we all know, I mean, as you saw just even from last summer with the construction cock up that on these projects aren't easy to do. There would have to be, I imagine, a year at least, maybe longer at Hampden if they were going to go down that route. But I think if Rangers are really serious about, off the field competing with Celtic in terms of revenue, then I suppose these are the things that long term have to be looked at.
Yeah, 100%. I don't think the new board would make the same mistakes with the Copeland Road stand as they did previously.
They'll have the steel order in banging time.
I think so. Aye. No, I think you're right. These are obviously long term things, but before, when you heard any of this stuff, it felt a bit like pie in the sky because you knew the kind of financial structure of the club. You knew how. I'm not saying they were struggling, but as I said before, they just seemed to be getting by every kind of transfer window, every summer, every year. Now they've got that breathing. It feels like they've got that breathing space. They can actually put proper plans in place for the stadium, for the surrounding area, for Edmiston House, for the whole fan experience around Ibrox. The Americans love all that. I mean, they you would imagine they'll be all over that and want to improve it almost immediately. These plans can now be put in place with a degree of confidence, a degree of certainty that they'll eventually get there. Is it the number one priority? Of course it's not. They need a new manager and they need to get their transfers sorted for the summer. As we've said before, they need to start competing with Celtic immediately for this title, try and get the title back next season. But in terms of the long-term goals, the long-term aims, we think a stadium expansion, as I say, improvements around the ground, these things can all seriously be put in place now by people who really know what they're doing, and I think that will give the punters real hope for the future.
I suppose, and a nod to the traditionalists, we'll all hear talk of renaming Ibrox, but we're led to believe that's not something that's been brought so far. So no. It's going to be Ibrox for the foreseeable.
Not at the moment. I mean, I suppose you would never rule it out with the new owners coming in, but no, you're right. The kind of information that we have is that isn't on the agenda at the moment, which, as you say, as a traditionalist, that has to be a good thing. But as I say, with this new regime, I don't think you could rule anything out in the future.
What do you think is their motivation for coming here? Because obviously they've got an involvement in Leeds, and we all know that the money that's available once you're into the Premier League, and £100 million for finishing last, and you go upwards from there. But I mean, coming to Scotland, obviously the TV deal's not the same. Is it all about getting into the Champions League? I suppose you can look at Celtic and go, well, there's a well-run club with £70 million in the bank. Is the belief that if they can run Rangers just as well as Celtic have been running, you have to give Celtic credit for the way that they have been running, the way that they raise money through transfers and getting themselves year in year into the Champions League. Is that, do you think, that the thinking behind this?
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it's hard to know, obviously, with these guys without knowing them personally. I mean, these guys are multi-millionaires, so you do wonder why Rangers, why Scottish football, but they're clearly football fanatics, and that's the first point. So they're interested in the sport. The 49ers background, I suppose it's about building a sports business portfolio. They'll have looked at Rangers, as they will have done with Leeds, and these aren't just normal run-of-the-mill clubs. No, these are iconic clubs, European-wide, worldwide, with massive fan bases. Of course, that's going to be of appeal to them. And you're right, what you're saying about Celtic. I mean, the kind of sceptics and the cynics around this takeover, maybe from the kind of other side of the city would have said, look, why would they want to invest in Rangers? Well, the reason's right in front of you. Celtic are a well-run club. We're talking about 80 million or so in the bank, more coming in through Champions League. I'll give Celtic massive credit in terms of their player trading model in the last 10 years or so, at least.
Over £100 million in transfers.
Well, we're talking last night on Hotline Live about the Jeremy Frimpong money coming in from nowhere, an extra £3 million that you would never have had due to your kind of success in the transfer market with the player trading. So these are all the reasons why they want to get in. Of course, Champions League, of course, being number one in Scotland, but ultimately make money for the club. And the point is, you only make that money if you're successful. And I think that's why the immediate aim, as they've said in that open letter, is to get in and be the #1 club in Scotland again, because that brings Champions League revenue, it brings commercial advantages. They have to be #1 to start making any kind of profit further down the line.
Well, I'm sure it's going to be an exciting time over the next wee while. You can keep up to date with all the developments from Ibrox and with the terms of the takeover, obviously now complete, and the new manager hunt. You can follow it online at Record Sport Online, and we thank you for joining us at this hastily arranged Hotline Live special.
I think Hotline Live was supposed to finish last night with me and Keith and Daniel, but I've got a feeling there might be a few more next week. We'll get roped into it.
Thanks. All the best, guys.